July 5, 2025. In the sweltering waters off the coast of Somalia, 31 speedboats carrying 250 pirates attack a U.S. supply ship, a vessel quietly carrying vital supplies to a nearby U.S. aircraft carrier. Armed with rocket launchers and heavy machine guns, the pirates move with terrifying coordination. In just a few minutes, they have almost taken control of the ship. But they underestimated the enemy they are facing. A moment later, the sky thunders. 10 MH-60 Seahawk helicopters carrying 300 elite U.S. Special Forces soldiers equipped with sophisticated weapons, 5 FA-18 Super Hornets, 20 MQ-25 Stingray drones, all aimed at a single target, the pirates' lair. And then America came knocking on their door, with steel, fire, and fury. There would be no negotiations, no mercy, no time for regret, because when you hijack a ship flying the American flag, you're not just dealing with sailors, you're dealing with the entire force of the United States. Come with me and find out what happened to the sailors. 6:12 a.m. July 5th, 2025. A U.S. aircraft carrier supply ship, disguised as a civilian cargo ship, was quietly moving through the pirate-infested waters off Somalia to provide support. On board were 10 lightly armed U.S. sailors, guarding a ship carrying fuel and a classified explosive compound needed to power F-35s and long-range cruise missiles on aircraft carriers. This was more than just cargo. It was the lifeblood of a U.S. aircraft carrier strike group. Suddenly, the cargo ship's warning sounded. 31 speedboats, traveling at speeds of more than 50 knots, streaked across the horizon like a swarm of bees. Each boat carried 8 pirates armed with RPGs, heavy machine guns, and bayonets. More than 240 attackers, hardened by years of piracy and battlefield experience. This was no random attack. It was a coordinated military-style attack. The pirates split into several attack teams. One group used rocket-propelled grenades and ship-mounted guns to suppress the Americans, forcing them to take cover. A second group attacked the ship's blind spots, threw hooks, and climbed aboard. The sound of gunfire tore through the calm sea. The American security forces returned fire from behind steel containers. 2 pirates were shot down, but it was not enough. In less than 4 minutes, the ship was out of control. 5 Americans were killed. 3 were seriously wounded. The pirates stormed the bridge and took control. The surviving sailors and soldiers were tied with tow ropes and forced to lie on the deck at gunpoint. But one action changed everything. Before he was captured, the ship's captain, a former Navy lieutenant, activated a silent distress signal. The signal was transmitted directly to the nearest American carrier group patrolling less than 200 kilometers away. The pirates had no idea. They were celebrating. They thought they had just captured another supply ship for ransom. They had no idea they had stolen a vital line of American naval firepower. And most of all, they had no idea that hundreds of American fighters were in the air and were closing in fast. A stern-faced Rear Admiral Sloan stepped to the podium and delivered a simple message. No one seizes a U.S. naval asset and walks away. No one threatens our supply lines without consequence. America will respond faster, harder, and farther than they ever expected. This would not end with negotiations. It would end with explosions visible from space. Still watching? Good. Because now comes the part where American warfighters take back the ship, inch by inch. To the outside world, it looked like a rusted cargo vessel, slow, silent, and unremarkable. But beneath its steel decks was one of the most strategically vital assets in the U.S. Navy's supply chain. Officially designated Logistics Vessel 72 Delta, the ship carried high-density jet fuel, missile stabilizers, thermal ignition compounds, and encrypted avionics components for the nearby carrier strike group operating in the Arabian Sea. In short, without this ship, the carrier's F-35 fighters couldn't fly, and its missile systems couldn't fire. It was a floating fuel line, a mobile arsenal, and a high-value target, one the Navy never expected would fall into enemy hands. The pirates didn't know it, but by seizing this vessel, they had just compromised a mission-critical node in the U.S. global strike network. And if those materials were sold, or worse, reverse-engineered, the consequences would ripple far beyond the Indian Ocean. Inside the Pentagon, red lights were flashing. The incident was immediately classified as a national security breach. Intelligence officers feared that if the pirates offloaded the contents, the materials could be funneled to hostile states or terror networks. But time was running out. The pirates were now less than 10 nautical miles from their coastal base, a known black market hub that had eluded international strikes for years. The U.S. response had to be immediate, overwhelming, and absolute. Not just to retrieve the ship, but to send a message to every rogue actor on Earth. If you touch America's supply lines, you get America's full response. Don't go anywhere. What you're about to see is one of the fastest and most precise hostage rescues in U.S. military history. At 6:15 a.m., just 3 minutes after the pirates overran the American supply ship, a classified emergency signal lit up the operations screen aboard USS Liberty, the lead carrier of the strike group stationed 128 miles southwest. Within 30 seconds, the red alert code, Priority 1, hostile capture of high-value naval asset, was transmitted across 3 U.S. Navy vessels and 2 airborne command centers. There was no time for diplomatic channels. Rear Admiral Peter Sloan gave the order without hesitation. Initiate Operation Thundernet, we go now. The response was swift and surgical. Aboard the USS Liberty, 10 MH-60 Seahawk helicopters were rolled out onto the flight deck, each loaded with 30 fully armed Navy SEALs and Marine Raiders, a total of 300 elite troops, hand-picked for shipboarding and hostage rescue. Simultaneously, 5 FA-18 Super Hornets were prepped with precision-guided bombs and GAU-17A miniguns, capable of delivering thousands of rounds per minute. In the hangars below, flight crews launched 20 MQ-25 Stingray drones, the latest in AI-powered reconnaissance and strike capability. Each drone was fitted with dual microbomb bays, advanced thermal tracking, and encrypted real-time data feeds directly to the operations tactical hub. Within 9 minutes of the distress signal, the skies over the Indian Ocean roared to life. 3 waves were launched. The first wave, UAVs, flew ahead to locate the hijacked vessel and scan for escort boats. The second wave, Super Hornets, circled wide, preparing to suppress enemy fire from the air. The third wave, Seahawk helicopters, moved low across the sea surface, hugging the radar shadow zone. Each flight group was tracked in real time by satellite and E-2D Hawkeye early warning aircraft overhead, ensuring complete airspace dominance. Back on the carrier, Admiral Sloan monitored the digital map. The hijacked supply ship was now just 8.2 nautical miles from a known pirate compound. If the enemy reached land, the operation would turn into urban combat, far riskier for the hostages. There would be no room for delay, no room for failure. This wasn't just a rescue, it was a statement. And America was about to make it, with overwhelming force and absolute precision. Proud to be American? Hit like and subscribe to stay with us. At 7:01 a.m., as the hijacked American supply ship drifted within visual range of the Somali coastline, the sky above it suddenly changed. From the east, a formation of MQ-25 Stingray drones emerged in complete radio silence. They flew low and fast, nearly skimming the ocean's surface, before breaking into attack formation. The lead drone identified 4 pirate escort boats flanking the hijacked vessel. In seconds, each target was marked and locked. Then came the first wave of fire. Precision microbombs rained down from the drones, detonating with pinpoint accuracy. The ocean erupted into columns of water and fire as all 4 escort boats were vaporized in under 12 seconds. Simultaneously, 2 FA-18 Super Hornets thundered in from high altitude, launching strafing runs along the ship's port side. Miniguns ripped through the upper deck, chewing apart sandbag emplacements and pirate firing positions. RPGs exploded in mid-air before they could be fired. Then, like ghosts rising from the sea, 10 MH-60 Seahawks appeared from the west, hovering just above the waterline. Ropes dropped. SEALs and Marine Raiders rappelled onto the ship's deck in perfect synchronicity. The pirates never stood a chance. From bow to stern, the American operators moved like a machine. Room by room, deck by deck, they cleared the ship. 1 fire team breached the bridge. 2 pirates were eliminated before they could raise their rifles. Another team neutralized hostiles near the engine room using flashbangs and suppressed fire. The hostages, bound and bloodied, were quickly located and extracted to the central deck. Medics stabilized the wounded while SEALs set up perimeter defense. In under 8 minutes, every pirate on board was either dead or detained. Not a single American hostage was lost. But the mission wasn't over. Over radio comms, drone footage revealed the pirates' mainland base just 7 nautical miles inland, a heavily armed compound with vehicle bays, fuel depots, and radar equipment. It had served as a black market hub for nearly a decade. Admiral Sloan didn't hesitate. "Switch targets, bring it down." Within minutes, 4 more Super Hornets swept inland. They dropped GBU-32 JDAM bombs onto key structures, leveling the main headquarters in a single pass. Secondary explosions lit up the coastline as fuel caches and munitions depots erupted into fireballs. The final strike came from above. A Reaper drone dropping a single Hellfire missile onto the command tower. The blast was visible for miles. By 7:29 a.m., the base no longer existed. More than 500 pirates were confirmed dead, with dozens more captured or buried in the rubble. The message was clear. You don't hijack an American warship, and you never ever touch a U.S. lifeline at sea. The pirate compound had stood for years, hidden along the Somali coast, protected by a maze of terrain and corruption. It was their fortress, their trading post, their untouchable sanctuary. By 7:30 a.m., it was rubble. After the supply ship was secured, the U.S. Navy turned its full might on the pirate base. Using real-time UAV surveillance, precise GPS coordinates were relayed to a secondary strike group orbiting inland. First came the FA-18 Super Hornets, flying in a tight combat box formation. At 500 feet, they released GBU-32 JDAMs, laser-guided bombs that struck with surgical precision. The command center disintegrated instantly, walls collapsed, comms towers crumbled, flames shot through the sky. Next, MQ-9 Reapers entered the area, each armed with Hellfire missiles and thermal optics. They targeted bunker entrances and concealed stockpiles. One missile shattered a hidden weapons cache, triggering a chain of violent secondary explosions that engulfed half the compound in fire. Pirates scrambled to return fire, but it was hopeless. Their anti-air defenses were primitive, outdated, and overwhelmed before they could lock onto a single aircraft. Then came the ground assault. From 2 CH-53 helicopters, Marine raiders stormed the smoldering perimeter, executing a coordinated sweep. Using drone feeds and infrared goggles, they hunted down remaining pockets of resistance in the alleys and tunnels. No warning shots, no negotiations. Over 500 pirates were neutralized in less than 20 minutes. Dozens more, those too injured to run, were taken prisoner, zip-tied, blindfolded, and airlifted for interrogation. By 8 o'clock a.m., what was once a pirate stronghold had become a cratered graveyard, its skyline reduced to smoke columns and twisted steel. The world had just witnessed it firsthand. And for every pirate, warlord, or rogue nation watching, the warning was now carved in fire. You don't touch the United States of America at sea unless you're ready to disappear from the map. This operation was more than just a rescue. It was a strategic reminder. In a world increasingly defined by asymmetric warfare, piracy, and gray zone conflict, the U.S. Navy proved that logistics is not weakness, it's power. A supply ship, often overlooked and underprotected, turned out to be the nerve center of an entire carrier group's offensive capability. And when that link was threatened, America didn't hesitate. It responded with the full spectrum of modern warfare: surveillance, air dominance, special forces, and precision strikes. The pirates believed they could strike quickly, vanish into the coast, and negotiate from a position of fear. Instead, they learned the real cost of provoking a superpower. For U.S. military planners, this was also a lesson in readiness. The world's oceans remain contested, and America's global presence is only as strong as its ability to protect the lifelines that fuel it. This wasn't just about Somalia, it was a warning to every hostile actor on every coast. Attack one ship, expect the weight of an entire nation. The rescue of the U.S. supply ship was not just a military success, it was a declaration. It reminded the world that the United States does not tolerate threats to its forces, its people, or its global presence. What began as a brutal ambush by over 240 armed pirates ended with the complete annihilation of their forces, the destruction of their base, and the safe return of every surviving American crew member. But beyond the battlefield victory, this operation sent a far deeper message. America's strength isn't just in aircraft carriers or fighter jets. It's in its ability to respond swiftly, precisely, and without compromise. Every link in the chain, from supply ships to forward bases, is protected by a force that never sleeps, never backs down, and never forgets. To any hostile force watching, the ocean is vast, but nowhere is safe when you target the United States. And to every American watching, rest assured, no matter where our flag flies, it is never alone. If you stand with our troops and believe in American strength, don't forget to subscribe and share this story.